I'm Scott L. Miller. It is the 30th of April, 2023. This is my vlog of daily life living in Leon, Nicaragua, and it's been a long time since we did a driving video like the old days. We're doing one today because I finally am out driving the car on a regular basis, so the audio is a little bit different. The light's a bit bad because it's really late. The sun is really low and gorgeous. Today we're going to be talking about, do you need a car if you move to Nicaragua? See you right after the bump. Okay, so you're moving to Nicaragua. You're going to be here for a while, whether you're just in and out or you're full-time or whatever. Do you need a car to do things? I get a lot of questions about this, and it's a difficult one. There's so many factors. When we first moved here, over 2 years ago, we decided not to have a car, at least not at the beginning. And that makes sense because you can always buy one later, so we decided to hold off the decision. And we went more than a year, almost a year and a half, until we actually decided to get one. And these are kind of the factors that applied to us. One, getting a car is a pain, and moving around the country is a pain. If you have to drive everywhere and just deal with having a car and car maintenance and all those things on a regular basis, that's going to wear on you and be an extra thing that you have to deal with. When you first move to a new country, there's a really good chance that just hiring drivers is going to make sense for you, especially in a place like Nicaragua, where owning a car worldwide has a similar cost. It might be cheaper here, but not dramatically so. But hiring a driver who comes with their own car and their own licensing and their own insurance and all those things is dramatically cheaper than it is other places. So using that kind of service, using those people, is a good way to take advantage of a situation like Nicaragua, as opposed to if you move to something like Germany, you wouldn't be able to do that reasonably unless you're extremely wealthy, and you'd be doing that at home wherever you are as well. So this is a spot where that type of thing, the ability to hire someone to drive for you, is so good. There's so many people looking for work, it's so affordable, and it's so close to the cost of getting your own car that when you need it, that may make sense. Also, public transportation here is generally quite good. So you have a lot of opportunity, not just to get around your own city, but to get to other cities very easily. For example, I go to Managua or Chinandega with some regular frequency, and those places are cheap and easy. They're also directly connected cities. When I want to go to Matagalpa, one of my favorite places, it can be a lot more of a hassle with public transportation, and then I often wish I had a car. So it varies, and it depends what you want to do. So your lifestyle is going to play a really prominent role in deciding what makes sense for you when it comes to having a car. If you're going to be going out and running really distant errands on a regular basis, having a car may end up making a lot of sense. If you are going to be doing more normal things, just going around your city, going to clubs, going to bars, going to the grocery store, going to a concert, then having a car probably doesn't make sense. And something very important to keep in mind, if you're coming from the United States and Canada, these are what we call the drunk driving countries. These are countries that in every way promote drunk driving. The way that they place bars far from your home, the way that they allow some amount of alcohol in your system. The world doesn't do that. They are unique in allowing you to drink and drive as just a normal course of events. Everywhere else, including Nicaragua, it is zero tolerance. You do not have a drink and go, well, it was only one, it was only two, how many hours was it? No, that game is an American thing. And that's why there's so many drunk driving accidents in America. Here and elsewhere, you simply don't get to do that. If you are drinking, you get a ride home or take public transportation or whatever, period. And so if you're going out to the bar, you're going to a restaurant, gonna have some wine with dinner, whatever, you're taking a taxi or you're going with friends or whatever. That's just how you're going to do it. So having a car for a lot of those things can be a huge pain, right? As I'm recording this, I'm going to pick up friends, and yes, I have a car, and so I'm leveraging it, but we're moving everyone to our house and then taking a taxi because I want to have wine with dinner. And it just doesn't make sense for me to drive because then I can't have even a glass of wine. So that's something you have to think about, that a car, if you don't drink at all, then it may not make any difference. But if you're going to bars and that's part of your thing, even if you just want to have a beer, that can be a big factor. So consider that because coming from North America, it's easy to be like, well, I only ever drink the tiniest amount. That wouldn't be a problem. I can still drive. I don't, slam it down and jump back in the car or anything. Still, that's not how you do things in the rest of the world. So that's a factor as well. Where you live is also a big factor, and I'm sorry that the light is getting low. I lost an hour from the time I was supposed to head out the door, almost an hour and a half, because every time, this is twice today that I had things planned with people, and I went out the door, and as I was going out the door, my job escalated things to me that I lost hours on each time. It is so frustrating and stressing me out big time. So sorry for that. It's going to be a very dim show. And so where you live really is going to be a factor. If you live in the middle of a city, having a car could be a huge inconvenience because you have to park it. Getting out onto the street can be a huge hassle. When we lived in Cabo Rio, just getting the car out of the garage was a painful experience. Now we live in the suburbs, and taking the car out is very easy. So those are very different things. How dangerous it is. Living in the suburbs, not dangerous at all. We have good visibility. It's easy to pull out. In the city, every time you're backing out, you're taking your life into your hands. You don't know what's going to happen. If you live on a farm, you're going to need a car. You need one, right? You can kind of gauge those things based on where you plan to live. Things are kind of logical. Now, it is different than the United States. In the United States or in Canada, if you were to live in the suburbs, you would basically just assume you needed to have a car. Here, it's slightly different. It makes a car a lot more reasonable, but do you absolutely need one? No. You can get by in most suburban areas with public transportation if you so desire. We were looking at a modification today for someone that is far out from the city and not next to a bus stop, and yet it's only a 5-minute walk to a bus stop. Well, that's not bad. Right, that's something that people would do, and if you're not doing it constantly, it's really not bad. And we live in the suburbs, but I can be to many bus stops within 5 to 8 minutes, and some in less than 1. And so catching a bus and using public transportation for us, even though we're outside the city, very easy because we happen to be in a spot that is close to a bus station. So a bus stop, not a station. Little things like that will make a giant difference. Now, you may be wondering, given those things, our lifestyle and how easy it is for us to get public transportation, why did we opt to get a car? Well, a couple reasons. One is because we have a business, and that business does send us on a lot of errands with great frequency in which we need to ship things, meaning we're constantly running to Leon, or more likely Managua, and going to PriceMart and loading the car to the hilt, including a roof rack up there, and bringing as much as the car can possibly hold back, and doing that nearly every week. So because of the business, we have so much more long distance travel and so much bulk shipping travel that putting those things in public transportation would be a real problem. But if we were just living day-to-day life, we would just do without some of those things, or have it shipped on the bus, or have friends pick it up when they go somewhere. No big deal. We would do something of that nature. Also, we are a family of 5, effectively. We have 3 adults, 2 kids, and so we all share one car. Doing public transportation, if you have a family, is a lot more complicated because obviously you have to pay for multiple people, you have to find space for multiple people. Getting onto the same bus sometimes means you have to wait, whatever. It's simply more people makes it more complicated, and having a car that is the size we fit in for everybody in our household to be in one car works. And so that has a bit of import. Our kids don't like getting in public transportation that much. They will do it, but they're not fans. But tell them they can go in the car, and they're like, whatever, we'll play some music on our iPad and we are happy, right? So it's a very different experience for them, and it's easy for us to take them to go out to eat, or to go to an event, or to take them to the doctor, or whatever. So that, having kids and a number of people that need to go in the car all the time is a very big factor for us. Without that, I'm sure we would not have done it. We also have pets, 2 dogs and a cat. We could make do without a car for sure, but again, it does make sense for us to be able to take the dogs to the vet or wherever they need to go for things, because once in a while you need to do that. Of course, a vet will come to us, a doctor will come to us. This is not the United States. People make house calls because it's what's best for patient care, not about what's best for making money. And so that stuff does happen. You can easily make do without a car, but it all adds up. And even with all of that adding up pretty solidly for us, it still came down to a difficult decision to decide if we wanted to get a car or not. And like I said, we waited a year and a half. And now that we have one, we're glad that we did. We took enough time. We really carefully assessed what it is that we wanted to have, what was going to make sense. We kicked around a lot of ideas. Did we want a truck? Did we want a van? Did we want a tiny car? Who was going to drive it? How is it going to be used? A lot of things. And we also have a scooter. So we did have some amount of transportation. A lot of people get scooters just because they want to zip around their local little area and have some speed and convenience with that, and that can make sense. But once we looked over a long time, you can see what I'm driving. This is a Toyota Corolla, and we find that this is a really good option for us. It seats 5 comfortably. It has good sized trunk space. You're able to get really good gas mileage, better than the smaller Toyotas. That's key. In the city, if you're purely driving around the city, the Toyota Yaris is king. It's smaller, it's easier to park, and it starts and stops slightly easier. But once you're driving out on the highway any amount of time, such as the one I'm on, Nicaragua 14, heading out to the beach, or if you're taking Nicaragua 1 or 2, whatever one it is, the Pan American bypass down to Managua, you're out on the highway for hours at a time, and the gas mileage and ease and comfort and everything of the Corolla is going to pay off. And it's important to note, it's a larger car, so it's counterintuitive that it's the more efficient one over time. But as a car owner over its lifetime, the Corolla is the cheaper car to own over the Yaris, which is what you see everywhere because they're cheaper to purchase and they work better in the tight city driving situations. I can tell it's getting dark, and I was tempted as I ran out the door to get my new GoPro light and attach it to the GoPro, but putting a bright light in my face while I'm driving is definitely not the thing to do. So not going to do that. So we're going to put up with this super dim light, but that is our topic for the day. I think cars fall into that gray area of if you don't want to drive, you don't have to. If you want to drive, you can. And if you're not sure, you don't really want to, but you're okay with it, sit down and say, do I want to be in the city or not? Do I want to be out in the country and remote? Those are going to be really big factors. How am I going to spend my time? Am I going to be driving places, traveling all the time? Do I need to haul things? Those are big factors. Do I have a family and lots of people that are going to go with me? Or is it just me or just me and my spouse? If it's just my wife and I, a lot of times we'll just jump on the bus because it's so cheap and easy and convenient and fast. It's much faster than me driving to Managua, but once you're in Managua, well, then we have to get a taxi. But then I have to deal with parking. Where are we going? Are we going to the mall? Then parking's easy. Are we zipping around the city and doing lots of errands? Parking may be really hard. It depends. So we really spend a bit of time thinking about the different ways we need to use a car, different ways that we want to use a car, and make those decisions. And I think that's where you need to be. I would recommend for most people to do something similar to us. Come to Nicaragua. If you know you need a car, then deal with it right away. If you know you don't want a car, then plan around where you're going to live and other decisions to make not having a car easy. And you can definitely do that here. The ability to live almost anywhere, not a farm, in Nicaragua with no car, truck, or van, or whatever transportation of your own is very good. Very easy, very good. It is a great country for public transportation. An enormous percentage of the population does not have a car themselves. It's important to note a giant percentage of the population also never travel around their own country other than doing local things. Like they obviously go to grocery stores and pulperias and do their local stuff, but they don't travel around. And you may not want to. That may not be something that you do, but if it is, and most people moving to Nicaragua are going to want to take advantage of the beautiful other locations. Lots and lots of us expats who come here, and now it's going to get really dark, I'm in Las Bonitas, want to go out and spend the weekend in Granada, or go to Ometepe for a weekend, or go to Managua and see a show, or go to fancy restaurants, or whatever. And when you do that, having a car is often going to be something you really like. We tend to travel, but locals tend to not travel, and they live without cars and are able to make do just fine with public transportation whenever something does come up. They need to go to a government office, they need to go see a distant relative. They know how to take public transportation and they can make it work, but they're not doing it frequently. And so that if the effort of public transportation is a bit high, they're okay with that because the cost of it is very low. Things to consider: the way that you plan to use a car, the way that you feel about a car, the lifestyle you want to have. I think the real answer is you can have the lifestyle as in regards to driving in Nicaragua that you want to have, with pretty minor need to accommodate for it, right? Unless you, well, my dream was to own a farm but not own a car, that's going to be a rough one for sure. But other than that, little things. Oh, I need to look at a house that is near a bus stop. There are some that are not, but most are. You're not heavily limiting yourself, and that's a pretty minor bit of accommodation. You don't have to pick specific cities because of having or not having a car, but parts of cities, potentially, that kind of thing. Thanks for joining me. Please remember to like and subscribe. If you have any questions, just get down there in the comments, ask away. I am going to touch, coming up shortly, probably on a short, about which brands to look at down here for cars, for those of you who are looking. But even if you just want to say hi, get down there. Love seeing everybody, have a conversation. I'm doing my best to keep up with it. I've been so far behind on all the conversation this week just because we're so busy and so many people are visiting. We do have a special guest coming up really soon. If you'd like to support the channel, right up here, buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/ScottAllenMiller. That sends money directly to me and helps pay for all these things that we do, places that we drive to, cameras and all the equipment that we use to make the show. And if you'd like help in moving to Nicaragua, whether it's a conversation with me or assistance in finding a house, answering questions, people to give you a tour, just send us an email. I'll pop it up above as well, info@relocatenicaragua.com. And as always, like, subscribe, put it on social media, tell your friends. Wow, it's dark. I'm completely gone. I kind of timed this pretty perfectly, though. I knew I had a few minutes left. I jumped in the car, and I am pulling up to my hotel, so I will see all of you tomorrow.